Left, right, up, down. Credits. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, oh. Come on. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Today... Good morning, everyone. We are still traveling that world. I am really white. Why am I so white? We'll see what it looks like. The headphones are all kimber. Good morning, everyone. We are still traveling the world, seeing the sights, going where every man has gone before. We're in Auckland. We're traveling to who knows where, distant shores. We've left places and now we're our places. I don't know. Let's explore. Okay. Oh my goodness. The Fruit Fly. The only ship heading west from Auckland was a trading airship loaded up with a vast quantity of kiwi fruit. The captain, one Maya Tahayu, was a Rubenesque woman who was even more kiwi fruit. Who made the journey back and forth every week without pause in an airship, which she declared cheerfully used to belong to my husband. What happened to Monsieur Tahayu was a mystery we never resolved. So, she declared, you wish to be dropped off on Pitcairn Island? I warn you, the people there are all quite mad. Man is necessarily mad. That to not be mad is another form of madness. Pascal. We are going around the world! Add us to the list of mad people. We are going around the world, I replied, or intended to, at least, but she cut me off at the first syllable. Excellent, and let's waste no time. My master nodded with approval. The airship slipped its rope, and we were aloft. For dinner, we ate succulent beefsteak topped with grilled kiwi fruit and drank a kiwi fruit-based wine. By the end of it, I had developed quite a taste for the little blighters, which I could see proving difficult on our return to London. The Peruvians can't get enough of kiwis, she said. I'm one of the first to think of importing them. They slice them up and put them in beer? I put lime in beer, but... They think it makes them more... A most lucrative market, I'm sure, I replied, regardless of how they use them. Oh yes, she agreed, they have plenty of money these days, so why shouldn't I... take a bite? She plucked another fruit from the table and bit into it. So why are you two fine fellows going to Pitcairn Island of all places? I began to answer more cautiously this time. The fact that they give that as an option was once more cut off. Okay, never mind. As an alarm began to sound from the cockpit. Hell's teeth! She cursed, rising from the table. That's a bird stuck to the guy ropes. I'll have to let it down. You'll climb the envelope to free a bird? What? Of course not. There's a lever. Good night, gentlemen. And so saying, she retired. I was going to say, how very conservationally minded she is. I agree with to herself, but I guess not. We have gained ourselves a day passport 2. We have crossed the date line. My master, of course, was correct. Of course, he also didn't realize this in the original story, which is actually rather hilarious because he just sort of went about his day. But moving on. We had reached the point directly opposite Greenwich, where the hours we had lost in traveling around the earth were added back. A whole extra day. Great, because I spent a week in a city I should have spent 30 seconds in. But never mind that. The next day we were subjected to a lecture on the provenance of the kiwi fruit. It's actually from China, she said. I'm not just one of the first exporters, I'm one of the first plantation growers. Well, it was my husband's idea. She doesn't seem too interested in discussing what happened. But what happened to Mr. Puff? Tough buggers to grow, she continued, not listening to my question. She's very brusque. Why is that? The skins, she replied cryptically and then added, they're valuable because of the skins. The captain had not noticed my inattention and was still talking. I patiently listened, because that is the polite thing to do, and she is somewhat intimidating. Until she tired and took a leave to tend to her craft. We passed in sight of a small group of islands. Those are the Pitcairns, our captain declared. We will have to lower you down on a rope, as there isn't room on the ground to land. Queried my master as to why we were stopping at such an insignificant location, despite the fact that I was the one who chose the next destination. But he merely brushed the question aside. It was clearly destined to remain a mystery, such as what happened to her husband. Timing for our drop-off, it seemed, was of the essence. The ropes were prepared, the airship lowered almost to the level of the water. Ooh, so close we could see sharks swimming beneath the surface. Sharks, they don't go about bothering trouble, and trouble won't go about bothering you, as my old gaffer used to say. We skimmed towards the low, rocky coastline of a tiny island, an accident of land in this wide sea. This, the master declares with wide open eyes, is how it must have seemed to Bly. Who's Bly? But there was no time. With a cheery wave, Madame pushed us over the edge, and we swung down on our ropes, heels skimming across the water. Oh, wow, my goodness. From above, she cupped a hand to her mouth and cried, "When you're on land, slip the knot!" We landed with a crash, as we did from our last air-scapades. Our cases followed shortly after, but my master merely leapt to his feet. "Passport 2!" he declared. "We have come ashore." I think I noticed. I feared for his health then, like at no other time on our journey, despite the fact that he had cholera before and refused to heal up. We have to explore. We have to keep moving. Again, as I said before, I think I've lost my way. I think I've become bogged down in the daily life. I just haven't had the sense of urgency that I did when I first started. We explored the island in the company of a guide who pointed out the sights. This, he told us, is the ugly name side. The local name, I assume, I replied. But the guide only looked at me in confusion. What other name is there? I guess that's true. The name used by sailors? I hazarded awkwardly. Monsieur Fogg coughed gently. My valet is somewhat confused as to the scale of the island, I believe. The guide smiled. Most visitors are. For instance, over there, that point of land. Oh dear. I had a terrible suspicion that he had answered the question, but I had to check. Is that called oh dear? It is. Is there a reason? Yes, replied the guide. And then we moved on. Later, we headed north, and here is Dan Fall, near Edith Fall. You'd better stand back, and this is where Reynolds cuts firewood. Good old Malcolm, cutting firewood. Don't insult the locals. Seriously, just don't insult the locals. Beyond was a cave where it was said that the island's mutineer founders made their first shelter. It provided a decent enough opening. Standing beneath the overhang, one could imagine a sodden bunch piling together firewood, under Reynolds' supervision, presumably, while thoughts turned to fishing and hunting. What happened to those settlers? I asked, feeling their ghosts walking through as I spoke. Most killed each other, replied the guide. But the ones that survived, they get along fine. You know, as you do. You kill off all the ones you don't like, and then the ones that are left, form a society. The afternoon was growing long, and the sun became unbearably hot. We returned to shelter, thanked our guide, and sipped mango juice as we watched whales in the bay. Paradise, monsieur? A staging post, my unshakable master replied. We will not be stopping here. The population of Pitcairn Island was 54 of the remaining. Quite certain of this because I counted them that evening. Of them, 13 form the ruling council. 12 are under 16, 8 are over 65, 1 is bonkers, and the remaining 20 mutter and grumble about revolution but have yet to make good on their threats. I estimate there are 3 basic physiognomies here, Monsieur Fogg remarked, a mixture of Polynesian and English, the descendants of Christian and Adams, of course. Of whom, Monsieur? Aye. My dear Passepartout, this is where the mutineers aboard the Bounty put ashore. Mutiny on the Bounty? It's a known story that I know nothing of. His face veritably glowed as he spoke. This whole island is a civilization founded by lost and downright plucky men of the sea. It is a most remarkable place. A mysterious outburst. Yeah, he's very unfathomable and very unshakable. I did not see much remarkable about Pitcairn. It was beautiful, certainly. But the soil was poor, and most of the inhabitants did not speak much, presumably tiring of hearing each other's stories. We told ours in some length, just to give them something new to listen to. To a listless group, somewhat interested, but I felt somewhat more skeptical. Tried to talk with more animation. I mean, after all, these are sailors. Embellishment and exaggeration is key. I tried to talk with more animation, inject more excitement into the ups and downs of our adventure, the items we had sold, such as illicitly obtained jewelry and a mandolin, the trains we had missed, the banks we had visited. But it was no good. I began to despair. Apologies, one of the elders said, seeing my distress. Not all of our people believe in the wider world theory. Indeed, the theory that in all directions from the shores of the island there is a world. Some who were born here believe the sea is infinite, and boats and ships are simply a particular kind of cloud formation. We have little evidence either way, you understand? We just showed up. Well, that doesn't prove anything that I am from France. Speaking English doesn't mean you know that it's from England. But where do they come from? Ultimately, they seem to believe we are all land-adapted fish. Please, he raised a hand. We have argued it many times and concluded it is a matter of belief, no more or less. Let us not waste our time. Yeah, there's no point. I mean, you can talk in circles, but some people, they will believe what they believe no matter what. Clearly the sun had made its way into these people's brains so deeply that they could not see for its shining light. And who was I to spread any darkness over that? Besides, the conversation was clearly making Monsieur Fogg quite furious, so a hasty exit from it was advisable. As night fell, the islanders left us in an unused house in the center of the village, and we slept in peaceful silence, the like of which I have never experienced before, and most likely will never again. To this day, in moments of crisis, I often remember Pitcairn, and the curious idea that all those people will most likely see nothing of war, crowds, technology, never mind the fact that they slaughtered each other. And all of these things that us Europeans consider to be important, and yet their lives were no less vital than ours. It's so easy to see what one person has and what most of the world has and say, oh, we know things, we are smart, we have so much. You look at these unvisited tribes in the Amazon and you say, oh, they are so behind, they know so little about the world, but they are so in touch with who they are so in touch with the world around them. And just because they're different, just because they don't have electricity or modern medicine or anything like that, they are as cognizant, they are as enriched, their lives are still so fulfilled. I'm playing a video game. if I knew nothing of wars, crowds, and technology, I'd be out farming, or romping in the woods, or just having a grand old time somewhere. I talked about this in earlier episodes about, where do you draw that balance between, traditions and way of lives and whole cultures getting lost in the push for progress and technology and all this good stuff, and you can gain so much, but you also can lose so much. Each person nowadays lives so much better than the kings did. You think of King Henry VIII or King Louis or any of those guys, and there's something internal that you can touch on when you connect with the world beyond just the screens or your phone or any of that. One of the best camping experiences I ever had was when we forgot any sort of timepiece at all. We didn't have watches, we didn't have phones, we didn't even have a Kindle that had the time on it. So you woke up when the sun rose and you fell asleep when the sun set, and you ate when you were hungry. And that was it for several days. You lose track of time, but it didn't matter. It felt somewhat freeing to not be shackled to, it's noon, so now we have to put on the freeze-dried mac and cheese onto the small fire that we just started. And we can get caught up in so much stuff and think that what we have is so important. It's really not. Anyway, enough waxing about whatever. This might be a short episode right now, as usual. I hope you will continue on this journey with me around the world. See you in the next episode. Good night. Good luck. Pitcairn Island, land of the people who 54